Story 1. Happened to me in Chicago a few years back. My fiancé and I owned a little clothing shop in a pretty nice area. Not that it helped us any. And a woman who was pushing a stroller walked up to me and put her arm in mine and whispered, "Please walk with me." She discreetly pointed to a pretty sketchy-looking dude down the alley. He had been following her for a few blocks. She told me she had seen him before and was very worried he wanted her purse or worse. So I walked her to the Starbucks 2 blocks down where she was meeting a group of friends. The guy stopped following when he saw she was with a man. I'm not huge by any means, but I'm 6 feet 1 inch tall, so at least there's that. I was just so glad it worked. Poor woman, can't imagine that fear, especially when you've got a newborn with you. Story 2. This happened to me about 3 years ago. I was in Home Depot, and a young woman, about half my age, walked up to me with a guy right on her shoulder, babbling about something, and she said, "Uncle Steve, I didn't think I'd see you until Mom's birthday party." I looked at her a little confused, but she made a help me face, so I said, "Well, you're in town already. This is a fun surprise. You want to shop together? We can talk a little while we get our stuff." She gave the kind of look I expect Superman gets when he plucks somebody from a burning building. The creepy guy was still there, so I made my voice a little gruff and said, "Do you need something?" He said no and went away. We shopped and got our stuff, checked out. I walked her to her car and watched while she drove away. Story 3 actually happened to me once. A girl approached my wife and me at a bar and asked if I could pretend to be her brother because some guy was creeping her out. I was just like, "Hey, there you are. Didn't you see us sitting here?" The guy left. Story 4. If I am here in Canada, I will do my best to help her. If I were in Bogota, where I used to live, I would assume it is most likely a scheme to rob me, so I will split my energy. 80% escape, 20% assess if she is really in danger. Story 5. Pretend we are friends while deploying all sensors to figure out if I am the one being scammed. Then it is a matter of information gathering and remedial action. Story 6. This actually happened to me in the autumn. A girl sat next to me on the train because a creep was following her. It was funny because I think I look like a creep. Story 7 happened to me, or close to it. She wasn't being followed, but a creepy person was trying to intoxicate her in a packed bar. I noticed, approached her and said, "Oh hey, long time no see. How are you doing?" I've never seen her before. She immediately reacted and started chatting with me. After a while, the person tried to pull her back, saying, "Hey, she's with me." And I was like, "Oh, not right now, dude. We haven't seen each other for a long time." We ended up dating. Story 8. Pretend we are friends. Adjust body language to express that we know each other. Stay with her to make sure she is safe, but control the situation. Do not let her guide you somewhere. Keep it public. Hope for the best and prepare for the worst. She could be in real danger, but so could you, and she might be involved. The last thing you want is to try and do the right thing only to realize she is involved and get ambushed. Story 9. Engage in conversation, take mental notes of where we are, and get a description of the person they are referencing. From there, try to direct us to someplace public with security. Story 10. Pretend that we are friends, then take her to a busy restaurant or store and stay with her there until she contacts her boyfriend, husband, or friend, and I wait with her until they come. Story 11. I have been in a similar situation before. I was going home when I saw 2 teenage girls walking. Behind them were 2 grown men on bicycles, wolf whistling and catcalling. I asked the girls if they wanted me to walk with them until they reached their destination. The men disappeared, and one of the girls' parents then accused me of hanging around with teenagers until their daughter stepped up and explained what was happening. Her dad then wrapped his arms around me and said, "What a man. Thank you for being a great bloke." Story 12. I would immediately stop walking while I stare down at the ground. Smirking, I'd spin around, my trench coat dancing in the wind. Unsheath my katana that's attached at my hip as the sunlight gleams off the blade that I've studied for so long. I make eye contact with the imposter following my lady, and as I tip my trilby in his direction, I let out a hearty yell. "You've made a mistake coming here, kid." Charging him, I watch his demeanor change from confident to afraid. I run my blade through him, and as he collapses, I whisper, "Nothing personal, kid." I return to my lady, and she thanks me for saving her life. We get married and have children. The end. Story 13. I've been in this situation before. She sat down next to me at the bar and started talking like we were old friends. I was confused at first, but then noticed she kept looking over my shoulder and figured it out pretty quickly. We talked for a few minutes before she visibly relaxed and informed me what was going on. A man was being super aggressive with her at another bar and she left, but he followed her, so she ducked into this one to get away, but he followed her in. He came back about 10 minutes later, but by that time the rest of the guys from my military unit and some local friends we were with were around, and I had briefed them on the situation. When they walked in, about a quarter of the bar turned to stare at them, and they quickly left. And then everyone clapped. Isn't it frustrating when you have one of these moments, but no one can believe your story because of the vast quantity of misleading stories online? Story 14. This is how I got robbed in Arizona. Some girl approached me saying she was being followed. I told her to get behind me, and the next thing I know, I felt cold steel on my neck, and two men came out of nowhere. Story 15. Finally, I give her the whole story of my ex and me and look for validation that I was the good guy who did no wrong and that I'm better off without her. She's only going to be an anchor to the next guy, and I can meet someone so much better who understands my unique needs and is able to give a little and hold off on all the goddamn dinner parties and not be so selfish and self-centered all the time. Someone who won't drain all my energy like some kind of high-powered vacuum. Screw you, Becca. You didn't deserve me at all. Story 16. I was at a club, lost my friends, and this creepy guy kept following and pestering me. It was so crowded I couldn't get to the security guard at the back. So I turned to another guy and said, "There's a creepy guy following me. Can you please help and pretend that we're friends?" Without missing a beat, he said, "Don't worry." Then he turned his back to the creepy guy who was looking at me, blocked my body with his, and stood there. When the creepy guy got closer and tried to talk to me again, he kept blocking me until the creepy guy said, "Excuse me," and tried to pass the guy. The guy turned around and said, "What do you want with my girlfriend?" And the creepy guy said sorry and left. Story 17. I'm 6'3" and 250 pounds, and I cannot count on both hands how many times a scared woman has joined my brothers and me or my friends and me, asking if we can pretend to know her because of some guy not taking no for an answer. We've walked people to cars, gotten people cabs, waited with them until they felt safer. I am always happy to help them because I hope someone will do the same for my female friends. But it's sad that the need is there. Story 18. Story time. When I was about 19 years old, I was at my favorite bar having a drink and waiting for a friend to show up. They had a warm smoking area where you could drink. A man I knew as a regular at this bar through my mom's friend, who said he assaulted her and had the bruises and everything, kept trying to force me to drink heavily. Then he tried to convince me to go to his house to do cocaine. This guy was around 50 and just wanted to have a good time. Another man was sitting across from me. After the first man left to get a drink, the other man made sure to look right at me and said, "No matter what happens, I won't leave you with him. Is someone coming for you?" I almost cried into my beer and assured him someone was coming for me. Story 19. Oddly enough, I had this happen once. There's a club where my friends and I were regulars. I'm up for my table and at the bar getting a fresh drink when this tiny little woman comes up, smiles, and puts a hand on my chest. "Oi, haven't seen you in forever." I'm confused because I'm fairly certain I don't know her. She then leans in really close. "I'm really sorry to bug you. I've seen you and your friends here all the time. There's this creepy guy that's been hitting on me and following me around the club all night. Can you walk me to my car?" So I take her by the hand, like she's there with me, swing back by my table, quickly explain to my friends and walk her to her car. The creepy guy came out like 10 yards or so behind us. The funny thing is, she parked like a block away from the club, right in front of my flat. If you ever feel unsafe in this neighborhood, knock on that door. Either my roommates or I will help you out. She thanked me, gave me a hug, and drove off. I go back to the club. The guy sees me turning around and walking back in, just looks down, and tries to look like he's got a reason to be there, and mumbles a "what's up" or something as I walk past. I growl a "get lost" and go back to the club. This was back in the 90s, before the days of cell phones or smartphones. The gothic and industrial crowd kind of policed its own and looked after each other. Or at least it did in my city. Rape culture is a thing. The best two ways to fight it are to confront it and, when you have the opportunity, be a good example. If someone thinks you're trustworthy, be trustworthy. If they feel unsafe, be safe. It's not hard and it goes a long way. Story 20. A version of this actually happened to me. I was in a bar with my sister waiting for a table for dinner, and two girls near us were being bothered by a somewhat drunk guy. My sister asked me to intervene, so I went over and pretended to be an old friend from high school. Luckily, they picked up on it pretty quickly, and I situated myself between them and the drunk guy. Eventually, he left. I ended up dating one of them for a few years, and we are still good friends to this day. Story 21. Calling the police and telling them there is a suspicious man following a woman who is asking for help. That way, if it is a robbery setup, I am already on the phone with the police, and if she is actually being followed, police will know about that behavior in that area. I would probably get her into a public building area and see what the next move would be. Story 22. Back in the 90s, I pulled up to the bank automated teller machine on a Saturday. There was a guy at the automated teller machine and another lady in her car. I was third in line, so I just sat in my truck to wait. The lady got out and walked up to the automated teller machine booth about the time the guy was finishing up, and I heard her ask him if he would mind waiting there until she got done. It took me a few minutes to realize that it was me, unshaved, wearing my old field jacket, sitting in a 20-year-old project truck with different color cab and bed, that she was nervous about. But the guy stayed there in his car until she got back into hers, so you know that dude was a good guy. Story 23. I had a girl do this at a concert. She walked up to me, hugged me, and said something like, "Pretend to be my boyfriend. Some guy is being creepy." We talked about the show for a little while. I kept an eye on the guy until he walked away. She thanked me and went to find her friends. I'd do it again. Story 24. I used this and was so grateful to the guys who went along with it. I was in a taxi queue to go home after a night out. My friend had gone home with a guy. The city I was in is super safe, and it was a 20-minute cab ride, so it was totally fine. The guy behind me struck up a conversation, and I just got off vibes from him. After trying to shut down the conversation a few times and him not getting it, I tapped the shoulder of one of the guys in front of me. "Hi, Paul, right? I think we met at my friend Laura's party a few weeks ago." He immediately got it and chatted with me while we waited, to the point where he asked what direction I was heading in. It turns out he was going the same way and insisted on me getting in the cab with him and his friend so they could drop me off. An absolute gem of a man who I am forever grateful for. Story 25. I had this happen at a local mall, so I said, "Okay." We walked into the jewelry store nearby and stood on the side of the counter that allowed us to face the mall so we could watch who walked by. While we pretended to look at jewelry, I asked her to describe the guy who was following her, and I looked up and noticed him wandering in front of the store. An employee came over and asked what we were looking for, and I quietly told her what was going on. She was nice enough to go along with us while texting her boss. Within a few minutes, the local police department showed up, and when he noticed them, he took off. Story 26. Female here, and I've played that part. My husband and I were walking in San Francisco, and my husband noticed a young girl around 18, looking very uncomfortable while a guy was talking to her. She wasn't in any danger since we were still in public, but was obviously uneasy since it sounded like the other guy was trying to get her to go somewhere with him. My husband suggested I intervene while he stood back so as not to alarm her. So I swooped in with a hug and said, "Oh my gosh, why haven't you been answering your phone? Let's go get some food." I grabbed her, waved at the guy, and steered her away. When we were out of earshot, we kept walking, but I asked her if she was okay. She kept saying, "Thank you," over and over again, and I realized she spoke limited English. I figured out she spoke Mandarin and was able to converse with her in my basic Mandarin. I made sure she knew where to go meet back up with her friends, told her to be careful, and we parted ways. Story 27. Had something similar to this happen to me a while back. I was working at a bottle shop, and two girls came in who were being followed by a guy. They said he had been following them and acting inappropriately towards them for the last half hour and asked if they could talk with me for a while until he left. After about a minute, the guy comes in and is walking around, kind of hiding behind racks and staring at them. This went on for a few minutes, so I went up to him and asked why he had been following my friends. He came up with some excuse about how he wasn't following them, and he was just there to buy a beer. I told him that there weren't any beers in the wine racks he had been walking around and to purchase something and leave. Let the girls know they could stay for as long as they needed. About 10 minutes later, they were thinking about leaving, so I went out to see whether the guy was still skulking about. Found him standing around the corner in our side car park, waiting in the dark. Ended up telling my boss I needed to clock out for half an hour and drove them home. As soon as he saw them get into a car, he walked off. There are a lot of creepy and predatory people out there. I'd like to think that most guys would do the same given the situation.